Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to this week's live edition of the Misfits Guide to Living. Where does your happy live? Where does it live? Where did it go? Where did my happy go? So I'm going to give you guys some tools today and some, I guess, some awareness of the journey that this has been for me over the years. And interestingly, people would always ask me when I was younger, are you happy? Are you happy? Are you happy? And I would be like, I don't think your happy and my happy are the same thing. You know, it always used to kind of stick me because from what I saw as happiness with people and what they chose did not match what I saw as happiness for myself, or did not match that energy of what joy and happiness is for me. So what would it be like if you could begin to discover that for you, like truly begin to live it? And first of all, recognizing with this that happiness is a choice. And I know that, like, you don't tell me that. Don't tell me that when I'm unhappy, that happiness is a choice and I could just choose it right now. Don't tell me that shit. Tell me how to get there. Well, if you can begin to recognize that, then you can begin to recognize that you actually have choice. I remember Gary Douglas and Dane here did a class many years ago. I just found access. I think it was 2 years in, and the class was called Happiness Was Just a Choice. It was the smallest access consciousness class ever. I'm pretty sure there was about 10 people there. And, you know, he realized with that, he was like, okay, well, apparently people don't want to know that it's just a choice. But one of the things with that is it's not just a choice. It is many, 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 many choices. And so I remember for me, a few years ago when I stopped drinking and started my journey with sobriety, I had destroyed so much in my life. I did not think I was ever going to get to happy again, you know. And I remember sitting there one day, and it had been a month or so into my sobriety, and I was just heavy every day and everything was a struggle. And I was sitting there thinking, wow, I don't remember a time in the last month where I've even smiled. Something needs to change. And it was from that point I was actually looking at this thing on Instagram, and it was a page that was called Fucking Sober, you know, and it was about all of these different memes and stuff like that. And I started just looking at it, and something cracked in me, and I just started laughing hysterically for an hour looking at this thing. And I was like, wow, I've really been taking myself too seriously. So what if you didn't have to take yourself so seriously in life anymore? What if that could be a beginning to a lot more joy? And I know if you're sitting there right now going, you know, I've got all this shit going on with money. I've got stuff going on in my relationships. I'm worried about the future. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know how to create my life. And you're talking about happiness, and you kind of want to do like that. I truly get that point of view, but what if your life could begin to fall into place the more that you start actually choosing what's true for you? I was having a conversation with Gary Douglas years ago, and one of the things that he said to me that stuck was, he said, if you started choosing what was true for you, your life would expand in ways that you cannot imagine. And I was like, oh man. And when he said that to me, there was something in my world where I was just like, I just am never going to get to that. I don't know about you guys, but one thing I always did was looked for one choice. What's one choice that I can make that's going to take me out of all of this? What's one choice that I could make that means I'm now choosing what's actually true for me? But it's not that. It's in every little choice. So what I've realized, and especially for me lately, is if you're willing to make each and every choice valuable to you, what I mean by that is recognize that the choices that you make today is what's creating what's showing up tomorrow and next week and next month and next year. What if the choices that you make today are the choices that actually start making you happy? Now, one of the tools that we have, I'm going to give you guys a couple of tools with this because, well, let me start with the tool of who does it belong to? Okay, who does it belong to is a tool that when anything comes up, anything that comes up that's heavy, that's yuck, that's stuck, you want to ask, who does it belong to? Okay, if it lightens up at all, you just return it to sender, and it wasn't yours to begin with. And how this actually works is 98% of your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions don't actually belong to you. You're just so aware you picked them up from everyone and everything around you. That wouldn't have anything to do with the happy thing, right? But so I got this tool early on and I'd use it and it would work with so many things, and it would work for a little bit. And I'd be like, oh, wow, there's some space, there's some lightness. And then within an hour or a day, I would be back into the unhappiness. What I realized for me was I was so much more comfortable with no happy. I was so much more comfortable with the stress and the worry and the heaviness because I'd grown up with those energies. Anything beyond that, I couldn't define. So everything that brings up for you, where you have these certain energies in your life that you keep returning to, and then when you go beyond it, the uncomfort of it is just, need to go back to what I can define, because you can define it. So everything, all that brings up, will you destroy and uncreate it? Times the Godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 100, shorts, boys, povads, creations, bases, and beyonds. Okay, so if you're new to Access Consciousness, that is the Access Clearing Statement. Talk about a way to get you to happy. This good stuff. Everything that doesn't allow me to be happier right now, poc and pod, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 100, shorts, boys, povads, creations, bases, and beyonds. But one of the things that I also had to do is I had to start valuing happiness. Well, let's look at it this way. What are the top 3 things that you have in your life that you will give up your happiness for? Money, relationship, stuff with your family, your interactions with people, future, your job, any of those things. So get a sense of what those 3 things are for you. Now, what are the top 3 things for you that actually bring you joy, that bring you a sense of peace and bring you a sense of lightness? Which ones have you been putting more energy into, and which ones do you value more? So everything that brings up, everything that doesn't allow you to have clarity and ease with all that, will you destroy and uncreate it? Times the Godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 100, shorts, boys, povads, creations, bases, and beyonds. Okay, so with the tool of who does it belong to, what you want to do is you want to use that for 3 days. Now, 3 days is a long time when you're using that tool in every moment when something comes up that kind of makes you heavy, or the thoughts that run around, or any of those things, thoughts, feelings, emotions, pains, any of those things that show up, you want to ask, who does it belong to? Okay, there's an app with Access Consciousness, which is so helpful for this, because you'll find yourself doing it for, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then you'll go into your train of thought, or you'll go into that autopilot that a lot of us are good at doing, and you kind of forget about this tool of, wait a minute, who does that belong to? This app is great. It will give you reminders with that. So sidebar on that. But basically, if you're willing to do it for 3 days consistently, it'll be like you're walking around in a space, baby, space. Okay, walking, talking, meditation. So try that, check that out. The next tool with this that is so helpful, but again, you have to be willing to value this stuff, is what's true for you will always make you lighter. Okay, and a lot of people kind of have this, let me say it this way first. What's true for you will always make you lighter. What's not true, what's a lie, will always make you heavier. Okay, so a lot of people kind of get a little confused with that. Like, I don't really get what light and heavy is. Well, start getting a sense of it. Okay, because here's another thing with all of this, with the journey of your life and living, the journey of wherever it is that you're heading, it's your journey, and uniquely so, it is your journey. So you get everything the way that you get it. And I remember when I came along to Access, and everything was about empowering you to know what you know. And I was like, empowering me to know what I know? Can you just tell me what to do? Can you give me an answer? And I wanted to see how other people got awareness. I wanted to see how other people use the tools. I wanted to see how other people choose and were creating their lives so I could duplicate that rather than get the awareness of what's actually true for me. If you truly desire to get to happy, you have to be willing to get to what's true for you. And one of the big things with that is recognize there is no one in this world that is you. There is no one in this world that gets energy the way that you do. There is no one in this world that sees the world through the eyes that you do. There is no one in the world that has happiness the way that you perceive happiness. So everything that all brought up, because you notice that kind of brings up an energy. So with the clearing statement, when something like when you're exploring something like that and you're asking a question, what is true for me with this? And you kind of get yourself a little like, you're like, you kind of get a bit stuck. Everything that doesn't allow me to perceive, know, be, and receive this, I now destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 100, shorts, boys, perverts, creations, bases, and beyonds. Okay, so with this tool of light and heavy, is notice when you're asking questions. Notice when you're making choices. And I mean just small choices, not necessarily even looking at the big stuff, but in looking at the things that create your life on a day-to-day basis of, should I call this person? You know, should I have this conversation? Should I go to the shops? Should I, whatever that is, but all of those choices, notice when something that comes up makes you heavy. Okay, what is this? Remember those 4 questions. What is this? What do I do with it? Can I change it? And if so, how do I change it? And so rather than just being on this autopilot throughout your day, you're going, wait a minute, you're beginning to notice these subtle shifts in energy that are there that are presenting themselves to show you, wait a minute, there's a different choice. Talk about a recipe for much more ease in getting to what makes you happy. Okay. So with this tool, also valuing lightness. Okay. How many of the choices that you make that don't make you lighter do you keep making because you've already chosen something? Everything that is times a godzillion, and everything that doesn't allow you to perceive, know, be, and receive it, will you destroy and uncreate it? Times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 100, shorts, boys, perverts, creations, bases, and beyonds. Huh. Cool. Thank you. Okay, so how you guys doing? You getting happier? You getting a little bit lighter? Oh my goodness. Now, so I said those things of 3 things that you will give up your happiness for, or give up your happiness in the face of. And what I mean by that is, like, when you've made certain elements of your life the source for your happiness. Money, for example. How many of you find it much easier to choose happiness when you have the right amount of money? Much easier to choose happiness when your relationship's going the way that you want it to, or your body is doing the things that you would like it to, or people around you are seeing you a certain way, or you have enough followers on Instagram, or whatever that is. But then when that goes away, there goes away your source for happiness. What if there was nothing that the world around you could do to change what's true for you anymore? How do you get to that? Well, that is a journey. So everything that is, and everything that doesn't allow you to recognize that that's a choice, the choice of, you know what, I'm going to have me. I'm going to find out what's true for me, and I'm going to find out what it takes for me to never give that up for anyone or anything ever again. Everything that doesn't allow you to realize that is a choice, and also have the courage to choose it, will you destroy and uncreate it. Times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pop, all 100, shorts, boys, povads, creations, bases, and beyonds. So the where do we go next? So I mentioned the thing with myself of, oh, look, I forgot to show you guys something. Oh my goodness, look, this little guy makes me happy. It's a dragon from Dr. Dane Here's Thunder of Dragons. Oh my goodness, amazing. The It's interesting for myself, even in talking about this topic, I kind of feel like in my life that I'm only just beginning to get there for myself. I've been really good at making everyone and everything the source for what I can or cannot have as my life and living. And it wasn't until a few years ago where I really started going, man, I really value myself that little. Like I really have that little value of myself. And it wasn't until I started acknowledging that. And here's a big part in changing anything is acknowledge what you're choosing that's creating it. So for me, when I got to that, I was like, wow, I really value myself that little. Well, and acknowledging, man, I'm actually choosing this. I'm choosing to see myself as less than. I'm choosing heaviness. I'm choosing all of these different things that are creating my life the way that it is. What's it going to take for this to change? What's it going to take for me to start making different choices? And with that, it was just the tiny choices. It was the choice to go to gratitude in a moment that I would usually go to judgment. It was a choice to go to question in a moment that I would usually go to conclusion. It was a choice to look at what do I truly desire to create as my life and living. And it's interesting because it can be, it's such a, it's such a thing that I see so many people and myself for so long included in this avoid as something that we look at. If you could have anything as your life and living, if you could choose anything, if you could show up as anyone, if you could create yourself as anything, what would that be? And for years, I would be like, wow, that is too many choices and way too much awareness again of what's actually true for me. But what if your path to happiness, your path to joyful living, where everything begins to show up with ease, where you actually like yourself more each day and you go, wow, I'm not judging myself anymore or far less than I used to. I'm having so much more ease with people, or, you might be reconnecting with the energies and the things in your life that truly bring you that joy. For me, one of them lately has been the ocean and surfing. And I moved from Australia to the US 5.5 years ago, and I just stopped. There were certain things that brought me so much joy in my life that I just stopped choosing. And last year I went, you know what? This is insane. I'm going to choose this again and see what it creates. And in choosing it, things started showing up different in my life. So what have you given up on that brings you so much joy that if you chose it again, your life would start showing up in a different way? It could be anything. Like this little guy here. Yeah. Oh my goodness, he's just too wonderful. Um, and if you think I'm crazy, then I probably am, but that's good. How many of you watch your happiness go out the window where you try to not be too much? Where you try to kind of do areas of your life, be normal and be structured and make sure you have way. If you're anything like me and you're one of those seekers of the world, that ain't ever going to be a recipe for joy. A recipe for joy for you is going to be chaos. And here's another tool, actually, while I'm on that, and then I'll see if I've got 8,000 things I want to say. If you are one of those weirdos of the world, if you've been a round peg trying to fit into a square hole your whole life going, why do I feel so different? You're who I'm talking to with this. You need at least 10 things going on in your life at all times, or you're not creating it. And it's counterintuitive to what you've been taught. For a lot of us, what we've been taught is take one thing and focus on it and do it until you complete it and then start another. That doesn't work so well. What if you started asking, what can I add to my life today? What can I add to my life today that would bring me more joy right away? Great tool. Okay, so on my little tangent with the dragon, I had this interesting thing. I was in Colombia recently facilitating a 3-day body class. And as soon as I got there, my body just was not doing well. And I had a friend of mine at the class, and she was like, hey, can I bring you my dragon? Can I bring you my dragon? Because it wants to contribute to you, and I kind of get it will contribute. Can I bring it to class for you? The first thing that broke me was this friend of mine's willingness to just care for me and desire to contribute something different. And I was just like, oh my God, yes, please. Thank you. And she brought this little creature. She brought this dragon into class. And I realized, I was like, wow, I had the point of view that something like that was just a little plastic dragon. And I remembered what it reminded me of was, because this thing sat with me, this guy sat with me all day while I was facilitating class, and I could feel my body changing. And I was aware of my energy changing, and I started having lightness and joy again. And it got me looking at it, and I was like, wow, I remember as a kid when I had these things in my life, and it could be anything, a flower sitting next to me that would be a contribution energetically, and I could just perceive the magic in it. What do you have in your life like that, where you've stopped looking at your life through the eyes of that joyful 6-year-old that you've been, or where you've had those moments in your life where the world around you seemed full of possibilities? What would you have to acknowledge about you to start seeing the world again through the eyes of possibilities? Everything that is, and everything that doesn't allow that for you, will you destroy and uncreate it? Times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pop, all 100, shorts, boys, povads, creations, bases, and beyonds. Okay, so there you go. There is our weekly live for this week. And I also wanted to invite you guys. I've got an intro class coming up in next week, next Friday, I think, 18th. It's going to be Create Your Happy. So if that's something that sounds like fun to you, please come and join us. It's going to be a one-off call. And also, if any of this was kind of struck a chord for you or contributed in any way, please know there is so many resources that we have with Access Consciousness, so many tools. And, you know, one of the things I love about facilitating and being a facilitator of Access is I have been at the bottom, you know, and also recently, like the last few years for me has been a really vulnerable journey with myself, and one that has taken a lot of courage, but one I'm so grateful for, because I know what it's like to not be happy. I know what it's like to be in tremendous amounts of judgment of my. I know what it's like to feel so stuck. It seems as if there's nothing else possible, but I also know what it takes to get out of that. I know what it takes to choose beyond it. And if you recognize that there is nothing, and I say this from experience, see if it makes you lighter. Again, remember, what's true is my internet. There you go. is there is nothing that you can't change if you do not give up on you. If you're willing to make a different choice, as uncomfortable as it may be, because it is, I know this is going to sound weird, because it's just weird. But it is not comfortable to be the happiest person you know. Try it. Try being the happiest person you know and see everybody else around you kind of get or feel as if they're getting a little distant from you. Well, what if you were willing to be uncomfortable? What if that was one of the choices that you could make? And regardless of how it is for others, you didn't have to give up what was true for you. So thank you for being here. Check out the Tools of Access Consciousness. If you have not yet, check it out on YouTube. There's a lot of videos from a lot of facilitators and a lot of resources out there. And one amazing tool, if you want to get your happy on, is get your bars run. So there you go. Thank you, beautiful people. I will see you guys next week for another Misfits Guide to Living. Bye.